Click the links for Odysee, Bit Chute, join the channel, become a valued member, or support channel and subscribe to our coffee or through the various other methods. Okay, so Jon Stewart, Trump asked him, he goes, why'd you change your name, John Leibowitz? It's like, well, why'd you change your name, Donald Trump? To be fair, Trump didn't change his name. I think his grandfather, great-grandfather changed it from Trump to Trump. Both names are kind of ridiculous, or at least in English. Changing name to Trump is kind of weird. Anyway, so Jon Stewart made this comment. He's talking about Harry Potter, the movie, not the books, because the books had one description, and the movies, how they interpret that description is something else. With the banks, the Gringotts scene. I don't know. I wasn't paying that close attention to the movie. It was just kind of in and out of the consciousness in a second. So Jon Stewart did this little interview, and he's talking about that. It's like, it's 20 years ago. Why would you bring it up now, 20 years later? Does he need attention? Now, here's the thing. It's not as ridiculous as it sounds. These people, Stewart and Silverman, at one time, and this was, a couple of years ago, they were, their names are still widely known, but they're not in the public eye like they used to be. They used to be really, Jon Stewart is more so, used to be, really, really in the public eye. So now they're doing like podcasts, and podcast is kind of the lowest form. No, Twitter is the lowest form of social media, and podcasting is kind of right there too. It's like, okay, I used to be a big star on TV, and now I've got a mic at home, and I'm just like interviewing people with maybe not even with a green screen. Like, you're not even, YouTube is a whole step up. Like, any video format is a step up, because you got to put together more of a presentation where you're using video. Podcast is like, that's just the lowest stage, and it's just a microphone, and it's just kind of almost string of consciousness type of rambling rants from far left Hollywood. And the thing is, far left Hollywood really likes the podcast format. I don't, say if you get subscriptions, and I can't imagine people listen to, like, there's I can't, Alyssa Milano has a podcast, and I tried to listen to it. I'm like, oh my God, this is just some soccer mom who's just saying the most asinine NPR talking points that nobody gives a shit about. It's just all pre-approved checklist, garbage points that are not going to generate any controversy. And the thing is, even when she says something that could be interpreted that is anti-left, like, the left wing just gives her a pass because they know she's dumb. They know she's just legitimately dumb. Anyway, so Sarah Silverman, Jon Leibowitz, or Jon Stewart, they're doing their podcast stuff. And so Stewart's talking about Harry Potter. It's like, okay, well, she didn't make the movies. She wrote the books, and the movies were based on the books, but, how they interpreted that is up to whoever directed the movie and the set design. That's all on the people who made the movie, who made that carpet. It's like, come on. That's hysterical now that I think about it. But to make I guess there were elves at the bank, look like elves. This is the thing they do with, I think, Magic the Gathering and all these other stories with the orcs. They did this with the orcs. They see a negative character in a fantasy world, and they immediately anthropomorphize it and ascribe it human traits. It's like, oh, these must be these people. We'll say the Irish, because nobody gives a shit about the Irish. Well, these evil characters must be the Irish. Like, who the hell? What is wrong with you people? Like, there legitimately, very few people see the world that way. Very few people immediately see a negative portrayal of a fantasy world and find, oh, this must be this one human tribe of people. Maybe it's, this sometimes cigars are just cigars, and this is just the pipe. Oh, my point was, so Jon Stewart is talking about Harry Potter 20 effing years later. And that's a bit weird unless he wants attention. It's a bit weird no matter what. Now, that's not the weird part. The weird part is he makes this comment. It's like, okay, yeah, people have been saying that. They said that about the Star Wars, too. The 1999 Star Wars with the little flying guy. And the Rastafarian character, it's like the flying guy whose names was on the ships, Ninja. That flying portrayal was kind of on the nose, and the Rastafarian, the gun, I can forget the guy's name. He was the Rastafarian character. We suck on a die. It's like those two were pretty much, even at the point where I was not red-pilled. I was red-pilled, but I wasn't all the way down the rabbit hole. I walked out of the theater, like, so those two. Like, that was why did he make that character like an obviously on the nose Rastafarian? Like, that was a bit too much. But it's like, yeah, it's there if you want to see it anyway. So So Stewart is going to talking about Harry Potter, and that's not so much the weird part, even though it is kind of old. It's that then he takes it back and he says, "Oh no, it wasn't. I wasn't saying what I said I was saying." That's the weird part because Harry Potter and the chick who wrote it are not. They're left wingers, but they're not 100% on the left wing plantation. Because of the pronoun thing or the trans thing or something like that. She's not, J.K. Rowling's not 100% on board in lockstep. She's not just an NPC like the rest of them are NPCs. So it's okay for the left to go after her. So why did he then walk the statement back? That's weird. There's nothing in it for him to walk the statement back. That's what doesn't make sense. Sarah Silverman going after J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter, that's totally normal. But him, Stewart, walking that statement back, that's a little bit weird. Like, as if he was. It doesn't make any sense. She's not a protected person. He could have just left the statement out there, but it brought him more attention. I'm not sure where he was going with that or why he felt the need to. Like, he said it. He went on and on about his little podcast thing about the Gringotts Bank thing. So I don't know. That I don't understand. But anyway, Sarah Silverman is she's kind of she's throwing stones from glass houses, and there's a little bit of this lady doth protest too much energy going on with Silverman. She spent 30 years insulting every tribe but hers, and then when she, God, gross, she gets some criticism, suddenly it's not so funny. She wants to pack up her toys and go home. It's like Sacha Baron Cohen was... he had like 30 years of going after everyone. And then he gives a speech before the ADL. And it's like, oh, no, you can't go after us, but we can go after everyone else. Like, how does that make sense? I'm like, you really not? Is this the Achilles heel where you really don't see how you sound? Like this insane levels of hypocrisy? And that's what happens when you're in a far, far left echo chamber. You really don't see how you sound. Like, you think it's... The statements both Silverman and Cohen were making is like, yeah, we can make fun of you, but you can't make fun of us. Most people just soundly reject that as the nonsense that it is. Anyway, she's kind of entered the cat lady phase of her existence, the old spinster kvetching at the kids to get off her lawn. Why Silverman and Stewart are going after Harry Potter now, 20 years later, it's a bit odd. I can't quite wrap my head around that. Silverman has been going crazy for a few years now, and I honestly think it's probably schizophrenia, and I know you're going to laugh, but it's like, I bet you in a few years it'll come out that she's got some serious mental illness. She has a history of offending and being Islamophobic to Europeans and Christians. She seems to think everything is an attack on her. Has she ever stopped to consider that maybe she's the problem? How do I explain the humiliation ritual to normies? Some things are not meant for YouTube. So Silverman is a lady who did the anti-white, anti-Christian Jesus is Magic tour. You can find it online. She also did Santa Incorporated, which I think that got like a 2% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's online too. I watched it. It's there's literally a scene where a little blonde puppet doll is telling people not to have kids. She's talking about how horrible having kids is for her body. It's like, a little blonde doll saying that, huh? Silverman and Rogan? You guys are... Like, it's so obvious. I don't know what stage of the rabbit hole different people are in, but to see Santa Incorporated, I think that sucked a bunch of people down that rabbit hole at, terminal velocity. So she did that. She's just so wacky. Aren't Silverman and Rogan? They're just so wacky, aren't they? And she has a video on YouTube, which I put on Odysee, where she talks, I guess she's singing about her white privilege. Silverman, your white privilege. It's funny. Chelsea Handler also has a video where she talks about her white privilege. Chelsea and Silverman, white privilege. It's just fucking clown world every fucking day. And she does interviews where she whines that people hate her for good reason, because she's very hateable. She's a hateful person. She's the problem. She's this vile, filthy core of self-loathing and hatred. I read her book, and Chelsea Handler's books too. Entertaining. Chelsea Handler's a very, very funny writer. Silverman's book it's something, I forget the title of it. It's darker. It's much darker. Like, she had serious mental issues as a kid, and they're still there. You can read her book. She's got this kind of traumatic childhood because her parents are nut jobs. And so basically the crux of her book is that she felt like a fish out of water. A lot of us, listen, if you're German and you're raised in an Italian neighborhood, you're going to feel like a fish out of water. And the same is for any group. That's just normal. But because she's in this protected class, she felt it, she was special, and she's among all these non-tribal members, and she's blaming them instead of looking internally and saying, maybe this is my because she said she grew up like dark and hairy among a bunch of friends who were blonde and fair skinned and beautiful and all this kind of stuff, and she always felt like a hairy little monkey. And it's like, that's not their fault, that's your fault. And it's not even your fault. It's like, yes, you're a different variety of human, you're from a different group of people than from your neighbors wherever she grew up. They're different people. They're diverse from each other. They're diverse from you. You're different people. Exterior, obviously, she hit puberty and she grew a set of knockers, and she kind of came into her own when she hit that. But it's like, yes, different people are going to look different. It's not anyone's fault for how you feel internally. Like, we all go through this. Like, even everyone goes through this kind of stuff. If you grow up in an area where you're not the norm, you feel like a fish out of water. That's, try being Irish in a black neighborhood. You're going to have a hard time. You're going to feel like a fish out of water. But it doesn't matter what neighborhood you grow up in. You have to hate a whole group of people based on the actions of some. It's like, that's what Silverman and Rogan are very, very happy to. Like, people didn't like Santa Incorporated. So Rogan's got these tweets where he goes, a bunch of white supremacists didn't like our movie. Like, you got 10,000 downvotes, and there's everyone in the chat on Twitter is like all these different ethnic groups. They're going, hey, we're not white, and your Santa Incorporated was crap. It's just the most degrading, demeaning thing, and it's like everyone who worked on it is not Christian, and they're part of that other protected class. I got to use a little algorithmic word ninjutsu. And people know that, and they go, listen, we're not white. We don't identify as white. We're something else. And the movie was crap. It's like, you're just straw manning to say people didn't like your movie because you and Sarah are just horrible, horrible people. Like, even Rogan's got a skit. I don't know if it's a Saturday Night Live skit or something, where he's walking around and he's wearing the star sweater, and it's at Christmas time, and he's in church, and he's being disrespectful to church. He's being disrespectful to another group of people's religion. And the video is like, he thinks it's weird. Like, you don't have to be hardcore religious to watch that video. You're like, whoa, there's something wrong with the Rogan and Silverman. Like, they've both done this stuff where it's like they openly antagonizing Christians or Catholicism. And it's just, you look at it and you don't think, those silly Christians. You think, whoa, Rogan and Silverman are not good people. Like, they're fundamentally flawed, dark, evil people. And then you call them out on it, like, oh yeah, must be a supreme person. Like, if it makes you feel better to think that way, I guess. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I don't know if this is too hot for you. YouTube has a bunch of hot words. You got to be really careful. We'll find out. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys all next episode.